Hey, Sean, thanks for taking some time to join us today and tell us a little bit about what's going on. You've got a story that I think resonates with a lot of Canadians. There's a lot of people that are struggling right now through some of these mandates, and your story is one of humanity that we really think uh, people will appreciate hearing. So thank you for, in the middle of this time of trouble, taking the time to join us and share what's going on with you and your mom. You're in BC, and your story kind of starts Friday. We'll start right from the beginning for folks on this because I think this is going to sound like a lot of people's stories. So tell us who you are, Sean, and what brings you here to us today.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, it's nothing more I want to do than get this out there, so this doesn't happen or keep happening to more people. My mom came down with a pneumonia last week. She does have some COPD issues, and my mom gets pneumonia every year. This happens same time of year. This is the normal for her, So she's 69.
69.
Yeah.
So this is I've been there. My mom was the same thing. Every year it was a regular recurring thing. So last week your mom came down with her regular annual bout.
Yeah, she was pretty sick. It was she sounded like a freight train coughing upstairs, and it got bad where I was starting to get worried about her. So we I called the ambulance, and she was transferred to the Arrow Lakes Hospital in the Cusp.
So tell the rest of Canada where this is. Where
Nakusp, BC, is about 2.5 hours, I guess, from Vernon, 3 hours from Kelowna in the Kootenays.
cool. So it's kind of north central or central BC for folks out there.
Central Kootenays, BC.
Yeah. So your mom was sick, and you guys were able to get her to a hospital on Friday.
Yeah, we got her to the hospital on Friday. She saw the doctor. She was thrown in an isolation room, obviously, because they predicted it was COVID. I arrived at the hospital and was able to get in to sit with her for like the next 3 to 4 hours, where she was completely talking. She was functioning. I asked her how she felt. She goes, "This feels like the normal to me. I'm not worried. I'm not. It doesn't seem there's nothing out of the ordinary for her," is what she said to me. When she started seeing the doctor was pushing COVID. She needs to be sent to a bigger hospital where she can be intubated and be put on the ventilator immediately. Um, we declined. We said we weren't interested in that sort of treatment. We wanted to stay where we are. We like the idea that they've got her on an antibiotic and a steroid to help her lungs recover. Um, and that's when they said she has to go. She has to go to Trail, which is the closest ICU hospital. And if we didn't accept this to send her to Trail, then they would prepare her for her natural death.
So this is already. Had they done any testing? Had they had any results? What basis were they giving for these urgent and extreme measures?
They did a whack of blood tests. They put her on an antibiotic right away. They put her on a steroid right away, and they did a COVID swab, I suppose, and then they sent that away. We had no results back from that. So the only issue she was struggling with was the fact that she was on a high pressure of oxygen, and whenever she would remove her oxygen mask, her oxygen levels would drop from the 90s to below, to mid 80s, which was a lower oxygen level.
Right. So, but this at this point was still all pretty normal for your mom.
Correct. Yes.
Um, so I'm struggling with trying to find some logic in the sense of urgency that they're uh, seemingly almost apparently right out of the chute wanting to transfer her to a different location. This obviously isn't probably the most immediate thought you guys would have had going in there.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, we had planned to maybe she probably needed to be in the hospital, be on an oxygen, and get the antibiotics she needed, and 2 or 3 days later she'd be on her way home.
So that was Friday. What happened next?
Well, Friday, when I went in, I did get her because I've been doing a lot of research about ivermectin. So I brought her in a dose of it and got her a dose of it on Friday evening before I left to go home. And I think she took about 10 milligrams of it, which was the required dosage for her weight. And I had left. I went home. I was able to track down some pill form that I had got 20 pills for her to take 2 a day for the next 5 days. And I would figured, I'd be able to get back into the hospital on Saturday, give her those, and then within the week she'd be back to normal.
So you were doing this Friday to Saturday, and then you went back to see her on Saturday. What happened there?
I was not allowed back in the hospital. They said I wasn't allowed there at all to see her. It's almost like they had their agenda planned out before anything, because they said, there was no COVID results, but I was not allowed to be in the hospital with her at all. And I guess she was texting me while she was still in the hospital, and she told me that they were pushing her to keep going to trail, to keep going to get intubated. She was texting me saying that now the hospital administration is not going to allow her to stay there, and she had no choice but to go to trail. Even though they had agreed the day before that they would treat her there with what we asked to be treated with, and they basically said it's not going to work, and they are going to prepare her and comfort her for her natural death there.
This is what they told you.
Yes.
That was Saturday. So what, they gave you no option?
No. My mom, because I wasn't allowed back in the hospital, I came back home. I was making calls, trying to figure out what to do. My mom called me on Saturday saying at about 3:00, saying that she thinks that she should just agree to go because she doesn't want to die. And I guess, they scared the hell out of her. They scared her that if she didn't do this, she was going to die. So they had set up an ambulance transfer for her to pick her up about 3:30 on Saturday. We tried to fight to get them to send her to Vernon or Kelowna, where it was easier for her to get, where there would be family that could be there with her. Because all of her family is on the Lower Mainland, which is 6-7 hours away. They said, no, Kelowna's not an option. Vernon's not an option. They told me that the night before they said we would send her to Vernon, and then all of a sudden they said no, Vernon's out of the way.
I believe it.
I 100% believe that it's because we were unvaccinated.
You 100% believe that?
Yes.
So I'm assuming then that they were on both of your guys' case about that.
More so her, but when we were there, I was asking a lot of questions. I've got a lot of friends in the healthcare field, and they kept pushing me, telling me that my mom has a blood clot in her lung, and that's why she needed to be transferred as well. And I said, she doesn't have a blood clot. I said, you can tell a blood clot from a standard blood test called a D-dimer that would let you know right away whether you've got a blood clot or not. And they said, well, that's insufficient. It's not accurate. She needs to have a CT scan. And that's where they forced her. That's where it got forced, that she needed to go to trail to have this very important CT scan of her lungs to tell us that she's got a blood clot, which I knew that she didn't have.
Have you gotten the results back from any of these tests? These were the arguments they were making.
Results back the next day on Sunday, because they did the CT scan there. She had no blood clot. There was just a lot of patchy areas in her lungs. And when I talked to the hospital, I talked to the admitting doctor in Trail, and I said, my mom doesn't want to be intubated. She doesn't want to get to that point. She says, well, we're going to keep her here in emergency. We did the CT scan. We've got her on the antibiotics. And then I said, okay, that's great. They said that we've got her on oxygen. And that's how that conversation ended. Actually, when we when I first talked to the doctor in Trail, she says the impression that she got from the file sent over from the Arrow Lakes Hospital that there was a woman coming in here on her deathbed. And while I was speaking with the doctor as my mom arrived, she goes, well, I think I just ran into her, and she doesn't look like a lady who's dying.
Well,
so that conversation ended. About an hour or two later, we spoke again. She called me back. She told me that my mom's oxygen stats were not getting any better, but she said she wants to transfer her to the ICU where they have a machine called a BPAP machine, which it's basically like an oxygen face mask that gives her more oxygen. And I said, well, if that's what you got to do to keep her from being intubated, that's great. Let's do that, because she doesn't want to be intubated and put under at all. And she didn't. And she was still communicating at that point then. So at 11 o'clock on Saturday evening, I got a call from the doctor there saying, I think we really need to intubate your bum. I think it's important we do it now, or else I don't think she's going to survive the night. We both agreed to it because the pressure and the way that they made it sound was that there was no other choice to keep her alive.
Are they giving you guys any second opinions? Is there anybody else that is paying attention? I'm assuming that you're not a medical professional, so is there anybody else helping you? Have you gone through any other measures to try and find some answers in this?
I've contacted some of the Ezra wellness clinics who have been great support for me. And I've talked to a lot of the ICU nurses that are working with them. And basically what I'm understanding is half of the treatment that my mom is receiving right now is for the good, and the other half and the treatment that they're giving her for COVID isn't exactly helpful for her. I don't know what else to do right now, man. Fighting with them. I'm trying to be as peaceful with them as possible because I don't want to make them angry. And I want to make sure that my mom gets out of this okay, but I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle where like I don't know what my next step is. I don't know what else to do.
So when was your last contact with your mom?
My last contact with her was Saturday evening.
Saturday evening. And what are they telling you?
Then or now?
Now, like not. You haven't been able to see her. What are they telling you? What's going on that you're not able to see or be with your mom?
Well, on Sunday, I was at the hospital on Monday, and on Sunday they called me back and they said the COVID result was positive. Within 20 minutes of that phone call, I got the call from Interior Health and the contact tracers saying that I needed to isolate for 14 days because I was in close contact with her. So, besides the point, I went to the hospital on Monday. I drove out from the cusp and went to the hospital. I got into the hospital. I actually got into the ward where I spoke to the doctor. I spoke to her nurse, and I was standing outside the room looking at her. And at that point is when the doctor approached me and says, you've got to leave the building immediately. And I said, why? And they said, because you're unvaccinated.
Because you're unvaccinated.
Because I'm unvaccinated. They said the only time I could see my mother was at the point where she was at her end of life, and I could be there with her.
Was that not what they were trying to tell you, that your mom was in mortal danger of dying?
Absolutely. They told me by that in the Arrow Lakes Hospital. They told me in the Trail Hospital that she has a 50% chance of living or dying. I looked up the information. I actually got some contacts through the Wellness Center, and on the Interior Health website, it says that you can be with any member of your family that's in the ICU, vaccinated or not, whatever the condition they're in.
I'm actually I'm looking at this here, and it legitimately says, and I'll read it for the audience here. The following visitors are not required to show proof of vaccination. Visitors in the following care settings, and it says visits to the emergency department or intensive care unit, visits for compassionate care, including critical illness, palliative care, hospice care, end of life, and medical assistance in dying. All of these things they have used to coerce, leverage, and intimidate you into allowing this protocol that you and others know isn't in her best interest, and then now discriminating against you on that grounds.
That's
That's
exactly what they're
that's
doing.
that's what I'm hearing.
Yep. So my
Okay.
next step after that is I contacted the complaint department for Interior Health. They called me back right away. I explained what the situation was. I guess they had contacted the floor manager of ICU, and they were back to me. They got back to me within 20 minutes, and they said the reason that they're not allowing me in is not because I'm unvaccinated, but it's because I was in close proximity to my mom and I was advised to isolate. So the ruling from the CDC uh, overrules everything. So I've got a quarantine for 14 days, and after November 24th, now I'm allowed to go and see her.
So, what do you think your mom would be thinking about all of this going on right now? I mean, this has got to be it's got to be heart wrenching for you. How Tell us a little bit about your mom and your relationship with your mom. What you think is going on?
When I talked to the last thing I talked to her that she said to me before they sent her to trail, she goes, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I can't. She was terrified of being stuck somewhere without being able to have her family there with her.
And that's where she is.
Yeah. And I'm sitting at home 3 hours away because I can't be there for her. And it's horrible. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their plans are. I don't know what's going on. It just seems like this whole agenda that they've put together is just to what they wanted to see happen, and they don't really care what the outcome is.
And they're playing the shell game with the truth on you.
Yeah. And I'm terrified now because I will be there on the 24th. I'm terrified something's going to happen before then, and she's going to die alone. And when they finally confirmed that they said that I could go back in after my 14-day quarantine, I said, I'll go do a rapid test right now. I said, what if it comes back negative? And they said, well, that's not good enough because the tests are inaccurate.
The tests are inaccurate enough for you to go and visit, but they're accurate enough for them to do medical treatments that are unwanted and at this point, I'm assuming basically unauthorized. So they're locking you out, keeping you away from your mom, and engaging in unauthorized, unwanted, undesired treatments that have now incapacitated your mom, and isolated her from her family and any advocacy, any support. And this is not just you and your family, Sean. This is why this is so important. I'm sure there's going to be people all across this country that are experiencing the same thing. Have you had anybody else reach out to you at all?
I've been dealing with. I've got a friend of mine that's got me in touch with the Canadian Human Rights Watch out of Ontario. They're going to be taking this case on as well. They've got a legal team on board with this, and they have. Apparently, there's 22 other families that are going through the same thing that I am right now. And God knows who else. I mean, I can't even imagine somebody's grandma or mother or father sitting there by themselves because they don't know what to do. And the only reason I'm fighting as hard as I am right now is because I know this is wrong. And a lot of people, I think, are in a position where they're trusting the medical system and they're just doing what they're told and listening to what they say. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous because these people are suffering when they
I
shouldn't be.
we've interviewed several dozen doctors here, and we have talked about different treatment protocols, and there is all kinds of information out there to support successful non-invasive treatments, and none of that is what we're hearing is being provided to your mom. Do you
Well,
feel like you're human being in the system right now?
I don't even know what I feel like right now. I know that I've asked them about ivermectin. I know that I've asked them what kind of vitamins they have her on. I said she should be on vitamin D, she should be on vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, ivermectin. None of that is in their treatment plan. None of it. When I just got off the phone with the hospital this morning and they told me, and my aunt, who is a pro-vax person and doesn't like the way I think about these things, she phoned the hospital and told them that I gave my mom a dose of ivermectin on Friday before she went and got intubated. I've talked to a lot of health professionals saying that's the best thing I could have done for her. And now, and I've never, and I just got, okay, how do I say this? They questioned me about it this morning when I talked to them on the phone. And I said, yeah, I did. And then the doctor just phoned me about 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago, saying that they are saying that her liver functioning is worsening because of the ivermectin I gave her. Now, they said that her liver functioning has been getting worse day by day by day. But the first time I've heard about it is right now, as soon as they found out that I gave her ivermectin. They've never said a word about her. They've never said a word about her liver before.
7 days into her treatment, into her incarceration, 7 days in, now they're telling you that something you did 7 days ago, they've been watching deteriorate, but only mentions to you now. How
Right.
much faith do you have in any of the medical treatment being given to your mom right now?
Not very much. The only thing that's given me any sort of hope is the fact that they told me that her lungs have not gotten worse. So I'm stuck in a position like, I mean, they're not telling me things are getting worse. They're not telling me things are getting better. They're saying things are staying the same. But staying the same is just going to prolong this ventilator. I mean, they're telling me that now because of the ventilator, she might have picked up a bacterial pneumonia that they're treating her with another antibiotic now. And I mean, the antibiotics are good, and I think things are always going to get worse before they do get better. But I mean, how long is she going to stay on this thing? Are we going to have to sit on this ventilator for a month, and then maybe she makes it out, maybe she doesn't, and then her recovery time is God knows how long.
What can we do to help, Sean? What can what can the people out there do?
Stand up and say something if this is happening to you too. We can't sit idly and watch these people kill our family. They need to.
We're going to put a call out, Sean, and I don't know what's going to come from this, but if there's anybody that feels that they can do something about this kind of thing happening in their community, if there's somebody that we know that we have a lot of medical professionals that follow what we do here. If there's something that you guys can do out there to help Sean or somebody else that's going through this, advocates are needed. We need some advocates in some of these places. I hope you're going to be able to come back and give us an update. Sean, I really hope and I pray for Sean's mom. I don't even know what to say anymore. This just does not feel like the Canada I know. We looked after our people. We didn't treat them like a protocol.
We're treated like second-class citizens right now.
Well, it's absolutely medical apartheid. What you're experiencing is the painful inhumane treatment of medical apartheid.
Yeah,
Um, only the those that are deemed socially acceptable are allowed humane treatment at this point. This is happening everywhere in Canada, guys. This is not just a BC crisis. This is a Canada-wide crisis. Thanks, Sean, for being brave enough to sit and talk with us and share a little bit about what's going on with your mom up there in BC, and we'll pray for you.
absolutely. Thank you
And
for having me.
we'll we'll see what we can do together. We can do something, and if there's anything else that we can do in our community here, Sean, we're happy to do whatever we can.
Thank you very much.